Ladies and gentlemen, welcome into FFU Fantasy Football University. Coming at you once again in the off season, talking to you a little bit of off season news, a little bit of draft recap, and a little bit of mock draft action. I am Mr. Bill DeCousis. I'm here with Mr. Tom Lang. How you doing, Mr. Lang?
I'm doing good. FFU, Billy.
FFU to you. You know us, we kind of jump right into stuff. So we not too much news to talk about, although a couple of interesting little notes, and then we'll get right into the draft recap. We're covering the AFC North today. So top on the list is the Aaron Rodgers business and the circus regarding Pittsburgh. So I know that you said I had you a couple months ago on the record saying that you definitively thought Aaron Rodgers was going to be the quarterback at Pittsburgh. I said I thought Aaron Rodgers was going to retire. Would you like to amend that prediction as of right now?
I still think he's going to be the quarterback, to be honest. I mean, you know how Aaron Rodgers does his thing. I mean, he held out for the Jets for a while. I mean, there was a lot, there's just a lot of, he's just a spiritual guy, you know? He needs to go, like, the wind's got to blow in the right direction for him to make the right decision. So, um,
Yes.
I mean, he is obviously getting older. With that, he's getting more immature. You know, he's now put into a position where he doesn't have Pickens and DK. He only has DK. He may be just like a little upset about that. But again, I believe he'll sign with the Pittsburgh Steelers. But honestly, I just don't think Tomlin is liking this we're gonna wait for him kind of model. So I think there's going to be some sort of movement for a trade for Kirk Cousins, but again, I don't think they're going to empty the bag for Kirk Cousins, you know.
Right.
So
Why would they?
yeah, exactly. So I think, they're going to sit and wait, and it's going to be, Kirk Cousins is going to go somewhere else, or he's just basically going to ride off in the sunset with his millions of dollars sitting on the bench. Which I mean, I get he wants to play, but I mean, for making the money guaranteed that he's making is just ridiculous again, he has the best agent ever. But I still think, like I said, I still think that Rodgers is gonna find his way to the Steelers, and I think with the less amount of talent that he has around him now, it's not going to be as pretty as it was with the Jets.
I have to ask you this, and we don't have to get this into a gigantic political discussion or anything else. Do you like Aaron Rodgers, the person?
I mean, honestly, so his Netflix show, was very interesting because like you got to realize like what kind of like person he is, and honestly, I mean, it kind of like if you knew Aaron Rodgers, you followed his career, like you knew what kind of guy he was already, but this is like to another level. And honestly, I mean, everybody's their own person. Everybody does their own thing. Celebrities are, obviously their own individuals as well too. We're not celebrities, so we don't really are. We're not on that caliber. Um, but it's uh, he's his own celebrity, and he's like he's literally. I like him because he does what he wants to do, but in a team sport, it really hurts and devalues the team spirit, I think. And
I think
honestly,
I think a lot of the stuff that he does and a lot of the stuff that he does, I think he knowingly does it, knowing that he's trolling people and knowing like meaning he's not sincerely saying some things on purpose all
well,
the time.
he was
You
just
know,
on
like
Rogan
when he just
again.
says things, like when he just says things to the media, he's like, "Oh no, I wasn't paying attention. I was out on ayahuasca on a thing." I know, I know that he's not serious, but I think that people think that he's serious when he says those things in that context.
Well, he
Like,
was just on Joe Rogan again, and he just like opened up to everything that he's been doing and like all his spiritual journeys and all that stuff. And Joe Rogan's like super into that stuff too. So like it was like two awesome dudes like talking about their spiritual journeys,
eh,
and
I don't know. I feel like that gets a little bit too
but
la
it's
la
just
stuff with that. I mean,
it's so I mean, but again, that's the world that they're in. Like again, but here's the problem that this really falls in. Like you have a head coach and Mike Tomlin that's a no nonsense kind of guy.
that's my
And
point. Like
then
it's
that's
just
that's the problem. I mean, if this was Rex Ryan running the team, like Rex Ryan would be like, all right, fine, go out there. As long as like my toes are getting licked by my wife, I'm good.
oh, stop it, stop it. I feel like that was overplayed too. Let's not even get into that. Um, Well, I mean, I could sit here forever kind of talking about him. I think that the whole business during COVID kind of got him a bad rap when he didn't necessarily deserve it. It wasn't his responsibility to explain to everybody why he couldn't get vaccinated. So I know why, and the reason why he said he was immunized and not
We're
vaccinated.
not getting into that.
We don't have to get into that, but the from a fantasy relevant thing, like it's gotten to a point where I can't take him seriously no matter what he says. So like I, you know, like if you were to just say anything, I'm not gonna, I'm going to predict that he's not there. Why,
Well,
why would we take anything else that he says when he trolls us
then
80% of the
you
time?
got Rudolph. You got Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer throwing the ball again for the second time, second roundabout
That's and
in
that's why like the other little point that we made about that we didn't make, we were kind of talking off the air with this. So DK Metcalf is not at OTAs. And if Aaron Rodgers was there, I don't think DK Metcalf would not be there for OTAs. I think
Well,
he
I don't think Aaron Rodgers would be at OTAs.
well, that's true. Yeah, yeah, let's speak in reality. Yeah, I guess
Yeah.
that's fair. Um,
I mean, the other a little bit of other news. I think this is pretty relevant. I mean, to an
yeah,
extent. I mean, Jalen Ramsey, obviously, Ramsey Island to an extent sometimes, depending on what game he's playing. The Dolphins are looking to potentially trade him. And I don't know if that's them saying, based on his personality, it's not fitting the team chemistry, maybe the defense. I don't know. But I mean, a talent like that, put in a good situation. Um, that's really an unstoppable corner right there. What are your thoughts on that?
uh, I think we kind of mentioned a little bit about this. I remember you were lamenting that you thought he was overpaid or whatever it was. This was a couple weeks ago. We were talking about this. I think my opinion is that um, his best years are behind him, but that doesn't mean he's a dissipated corner. And also his motivate, like if you listen to him, like some things with his like his motivation and his attitude and different things. If he's on a winning team, a team that's like making moves for it, I think he could be a real asset because
Yeah, I mean,
he's been around the
he went
block.
from
He's a vet.
Super Bowl to Super Bowl loss to the Miami Dolphins, and the
Sure.
Dolphins at that point in time were, well, actually, he won the Super Bowl with the Rams, right?
Was he
Yeah,
on the Rams at that point?
I think
Yeah,
so. I'll have to look back at that, but I'm pretty sure he was on the Rams at that point, and then he got traded because they kind of
I'll
were
check
like
while we're talking.
they were dismantling a little bit. They needed to find some cap room, um, because they won what like 3 years ago, 4 years ago.
Well, the Rams won in 2021 season, so
Yeah, so
I'm checking right now. Um, yeah, I mean it's difficult to say, but yeah, the point was he's not like he he's past his prime, but he's still very good, and but he's very crafty. Like he's been around the block, he's played all over the secondary, he's played with a number of different teams. Nothing's going to surprise him. That veteran
he
presence
was with the
in a
Rams. He was with the Rams till 2022. He played the 2022
right,
season. He was on Miami 2023, so he won the Super Bowl with the Rams.
and that presence for anybody secondary is very valuable. And having played defense, I understand like the amount that goes in for secondary and movements and stuff. That's why it's valuable. But considering how we think the Dolphins are going to be this year, if I'm Jalen Ramsey and I'm looking to, ring hunt or anything like that, and it's not going to happen in Miami. So I'm not surprised. Maybe he wants to get up out of there or whatever.
Well, he won't be traded to an AFC team. So
No. Two other AFC East notes while we're here. So we were mentioning so Stephon Diggs might not be ready for the start of the season.
yep, week 4 it's projected right now.
We'll keep an eye on that in the off season, but I was of the opinion Diggs could be like a late round sleeper pick just for a peppering of targets in an offense that could use it, considering if
Yeah,
it's not Diggs, who's the number one target? Hunter Henry at this point? I mean,
I still don't believe it. I'm in Diggs. We don't trust. I don't believe so.
and then I know you were bringing up the Dalton Kincaid thing. So we have a love-hate relationship with Dalton Kincaid on this show. So why don't what's the quote there for the Bills?
That Dalton Kincaid big goal is to put on strength size, and speed. I mean, that's what the off season's for, right? So we're like 100 day, we're 99 days away from kickoff, week
Right.
one kickoff. So you got 99 days to do that, buddy.
It felt like, though, I don't think size and speed. I mean, he looked really athletic. It just felt like maybe his route running, because Josh Allen was just kind of like it. Just some of those targets weren't really around. I think it was like route
Well,
running. Like he,
well, the thing is when you're not playing on the field and you're injured and not you don't really have the chemistry like you normally would at game speed with the quarterback. So I mean that's the big thing, and you just got to be on the field. You got to have that chemistry. He was a second year player. So I think maybe if he's on the field healthy and he puts on the strength, size, and speed. I mean, I don't know how much size you could really put on more as a tight end, and then you're going to be put as a right tackle. But I mean, come on.
yeah. I
So
mean, I like Dalton Kincaid. I think put it this way, his upside and his opportunity, like it was a year ago, like it was 2 years ago, is gigantic in that offense, and they could
yeah,
really use like a super talented. Like right now, we keep saying about Khalil Shakir, that's their best pass catching option, unless Dalton Kincaid steps up there. So I mean, we'll see how that goes. We'll see how he looks going into camp. Any other news, or want to jump into some AFC North here?
no, it's been a little light of a week. Obviously we're going to be covering the next fun element of the divisions, which is
The AFC North.
yeah,
So yeah, so let's jump right in. As always, we cover from last year's the top to the bottom finisher, and last year's top finisher is the Baltimore Ravens. So Baltimore Ravens. This is again, we keep saying all the time when a team spends their entire draft going defense or offensive line, especially their top picks, you know what they're telling you. They're going to be giving you more of the same from year to year, and especially in a team where you have this much static situation from the coaches to the players going in from last year to this year, you're going to be getting more of the same. So the Ravens, first round pick, safety, second round pick, edge rusher, third round pick, tackle, fourth round pick, linebacker. And so many of these guys were real studs. I mean, the safety out of Georgia, he was great. Like they were saying how much of he was a steal was at the end of the first round. So my question to you, Tommy, is we've been hearing some noise about the you know, uh, oh my gosh, what's his face? Mark Andrews about is he going to be back? Is he not going to be back? Yes, he's probably going to be back. Um, Other than that, I mean, you've got another year of Derrick Henry. My question to you is, should we just rewind time machine? It's the exact same year for the Ravens this year, or are
yeah.
you
There's no reason to say otherwise. I mean,
no
and
reason to say
honestly, they
otherwise? Like,
and honestly they got better at defense too. So they're getting
okay,
younger and they're getting better at defense. They had one of the worst pass defenses last year, so they were playing a lot of catch up, and they lost some of these games because of that. So
right.
I think they have only gotten better, and I think this is really obviously going to help Lamar Jackson stay, not having to beat beat other defenses because their defense is playing well as well too. So, yeah, I do think there's going to be a slight slip in touchdowns regression for Derrick Henry, slightly, but I think that he is tremendously undervalued in drafts this year, and I think he's going to be a crazy, crazy value. He's going to finish at the top five running backs.
Do you think he's going to finish top five again?
Yeah, for sure.
No question in your mind.
No question.
Not another year old. Doesn't matter. It's Derrick Henry.
No, there. I mean, he's a different kind of different kind of animal. I mean, maybe if it was a smaller running back at 31 years old, but this guy is just built. So
Yeah, he is a free. And it's going to be interesting once we get into the offseason when you and I start doing tier-based rankings. But if that's what you're saying, then at the moment he's a massive, massive value because he's not going there.
no, I made it very clear. I made it very clear in our mock drafts. He
Yeah.
is a massive, massive value where he's being drafted right now. And he's also catching the ball too. He's a he's a big guy that catches the ball. Not as nearly as much as like a Saquon Barkley, but he's going to get his targets. And Jackson does like his little dump offs. So. Now, again, you got to remember how they utilize Derrick Henry. They don't use him as an all three down back. Passing downs and third down, atypically Justice Hill is back there. So, that's obviously a negative side of it. But again, you know, that means Derrick Henry is staying healthy and he's goal line all day. So, it's a very, 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 very big threat when you have Lamar Jackson and Derrick Henry in the backfield together. It's just an unstoppable force.
Do you make anything of like my prediction of I think whether Mark Andrews is there at all, I think Isaiah Likely overtakes him. This is like Isaiah Likely. He becomes like the prominent part of the offense now.
Yeah, I mean, the problem is I just feel like they're both streaming tight ends at this point.
Well, at this point, right,
There's no solid, and the same. It's like the same thing with the wide receivers. There's too much talent
right.
around it, there's not one clear cut person that you could really fall in line and say this is my guy and I'm gonna feel comfortable starting week in week out. I feel more comfortable starting in Isaiah Likely based on his age and his durability and his how he's been playing with Lamar Jackson since he's been drafted. He's been more of a kind of like an upward trend kind of player, whereas Mark Andrews is either stagnant or slipping pretty drastically. So,
What's amazing is we were laughing at the stat earlier in the offseason. So Lamar Jackson threw 41 touchdown passes, and you were basically like, d- judging by what your expectations were, unhappy with just about every single Baltimore pass catcher.
yeah.
I mean, even Zay Flowers, didn't return on draft value. Plus, he had some lulls in there. It wasn't worth it. Good luck trying to predict Bateman. You have the Mark Andrews experiment for the first half of the year, which did not go well. You throw in Likely for a couple of games, stealing some stuff. Then you've got, like whatever else is going to the what wasn't going to Derrick Henry. It is a bit, it reminds me of Patrick Mahomes in prior years of like where he's being amazing, but good luck who he's throwing to. So
Yeah.
I I don't know if I see Bateman making a thing. I mean, if we're predicting the exact same thing, we're going to have to take a real look at their wide receiver core and really try to see where those targets are. Um,
It just always gets dispersed.
yeah. All right. So coming in just after them, the Pittsburgh Steelers, who are definitely not going to finish 10-7 this year if Aaron Rodgers is not the quarterback. So Pittsburgh Steelers,
This
interesting
may be the
pick,
first year that they don't they don't finish over
500.
500 with Tomlin as
If
as as a head coach if they don't have Aaron Rodgers at the helm.
I think they'd be fine if they had Captain Kirk too, but it's not looking
Again,
good.
but what they have to give up the field for Captain Kirk.
I know. Maybe they'll draft for Jameis or something. I mean, we'll see what the Saints do. First round pick for the Steelers defense, Derek Harmon out of Oregon. Very, 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 very good player. It basically gives the Steelers the best defensive line, one of, if not the Eagles or something in football. And then they didn't have a second round pick, and now I want to talk a little about this. So their third round pick, they went running back. Now remember what we were saying. This particular draft was so deep with running back that I'm sort of not counting against where running backs are going if they went as far as the third or fourth round. Caleb Johnson out of Iowa, very, very talented back. But
Yeah.
we were saying, though, so with the departure of Najee Harris, Jalen Warren, who's been super talented for X amount of years, basically had the backfield to himself. Do you think Jalen Warren, because he's currently not being valued as like a lead starting running back with where you've been drafted him, do you think people are making too much of this Caleb Johnson drafting, or is the draft community right to be conservative about this?
I think it's to be a little conservative. I mean, I like Jalen Warren in the system of playing, in the system of the Steelers. But you got to think about it because I mean, Caleb Johnson, he's 21 years old. He's out of Iowa, which is nose grind. They're a hard nose running football team. They utilize a tight end. They're a system that's been building really good running backs and also tight ends. Um, and being 6'1", 224 at 21 years old, and then you look at Jalen Warren being 5'8", 215, 26 years old. I mean, the height stature is fairly, there's a what 5 inch difference right there, 5-6 inch difference. And weight, 10 pounds. Jalen Warren has a little bit more of like kind of like a bowling ball ready to roll through you kind of thing, but he's also agile.
He
But
remind he reminds me a lot of Austin Eckler, like his body type, the way he plays, and also like just the
Yeah,
similar. He was the undrafted guy.
yeah.
Um,
I mean, I think it's going to be a 1-2 punch, but I think that it's going to be a 50-50 split instead of it being kind of like the 70-30 element. And I think that that'll be better because, they really need to see what kind of back Jalen Warren is
right.
without Najee Harris being there. And I think that's going to be a benefit to fantasy value.
You're just as conservative about this then.
I
Okay.
but here's the
I,
thing with it too. I think it's 50-50, and then like as the season goes on, obviously the stronger guy's going to take the helm, and if they're making a playoff push like they normally do, and they're a grinding team, I think it will lay over to Caleb Johnson, but that I don't think at that point it'll be fantasy relevant. I think you might be able to like really get some great fantasy value from Jalen Warren the first couple weeks of the season because of how the system of play is going to be, and then you might be a trade away target as the season goes on.
maybe I won't spend too much time talking about DK
But
Metcalf.
but I will say
Oh,
this.
sorry,
Sorry, I
sorry.
will say this. That, if you do draft Jalen Warren, you really need to really think about late in the rounds draft Caleb Johnson and having him as a backpack.
Sure. Yeah, so DK Metcalf, actually don't want to spend too much time talking about DK Metcalf
Neither do I.
until we I know
I
until it's declared what they're doing at quarterback. Just for the record, we're talking factors different fantasy outlook if it's Mason Rudolph versus
Well, you
Aaron
also got
Rodgers.
what you
So
got. You
like
got you got Ohio State NCAA championship winning Will Howard
yeah,
at the helm.
they drafted Will Howard. That's right in the sixth round.
Yeah.
I know Tommy doesn't like him because he's not in the SEC. Tommy doesn't like anybody who's not in the SEC. He's made it very clear.
Go Tigers.
Yeah. Which Tigers?
Clemson.
Yes, very good. Because there's multiple Tigers. Anyway, so we'll hold off on that. Yeah, but basically, other than the Will Howard thing, every other player was defense for the Steelers. So, oh man, those games are going to be like 13-6. I can't wait. I can't wait. Those are going to be good. Yeah, there we go. Any other points on the Steelers?
No, I mean Pat Fryermuth got paid last year, and I think whatever quarterback is there is going to have to search for his talents and utilize his him at his disposal.
He's talented, man, but he is just going to be streaming tight end. All right, so the Cincinnati Bengals, finishing just after them. So I've already gone on a diatribe about Joe Burrow and the Cincinnati Bengals. We'll leave it there. We'll just keep it directly to what we haven't covered before. The relevant part there is just generally speaking, it's why we have Jamar Chase as the number one receiver. We see the Bengals having to score 100 points every game to win, and it's going to be more of the same. Like they were 9-8 last year, they're going to be 9-8 this year. They've attempted to, to some degree, patch some of this up, but it might be too little, too late. So first round they draft edge rusher Shamar Stewart, second round linebacker, third round guard. I mean, like their O line and defense needed help. They drafted a little bit, but I mean, they're not going to be anywhere close to a good defense next year. So I don't know. I know you see it the exact same way. Is there any way? I mean, we're not overestimating the how good the Bengals offense is going to have to be this year, right? I mean, you think they're at injury risk because of how much they're going to be on the field.
I mean, if you're going to be on the field 90% of the game, I mean,
Yeah.
but I mean, they're getting paid to be on the field 90% of the game, so
Yeah. Do you make anything of? I saw something about this recently. So in the sixth round, they grabbed Taj Brooks out of Texas Tech. Do you make anything of this draft pick as it pertains to like we're feeling great about Chase Brown? Does this affect him at all? I don't think so. I mean,
I mean, he's a semi bigger in weight back, so I mean, it just depends on what kind of system they're looking for. So I mean, we know they're throwing the ball. We know that Chase Brown is a good pass catching running back as well too. So I guess it just depends on where the healthiness of Zach Moss or Samaje Perine who resigns with the Bengals. So I don't know. I mean, I don't really think there's much to talk about as of right now
sure.
until we see what it's shaping out as.
Okay. All right. So let's talk about the Browns. So the Browns finishing last year in fourth in the AFC North, and now they had a very interesting draft now. So I want to talk about. I do want to talk about this, but I did alert you, Mr. Lang, that we would just spend a couple minutes just on this topic. Okay.
Well, I will
But
say this, just so you know, just so you're aware of
yes.
this right now, Fantasy Pros has Shador Sanders as QB1.
Okay.
Okay, keep going.
Well, to the level of trolling, I think it's probably going to be Joe Flacco from a fantasy perspective, but we'll get to that. So I just wanted to comment on the Shador Sanders thing. I think, man, the media sucks. The media blows things up to a degree. It makes things a bigger thing. And honestly, guys like Mel Kiper and Skip Bayless don't help. Um, man, I've never seen grown men acting like that, like ever, like in a serious scenario as bad as it is. What happened was it had nothing to do with other political or other socio things that we could name. What happened was you had a player who his hype from himself and his dad did not match the play in which the teams think that they're going to get on the field. And for anybody who says that teams don't want a distraction, teams draft distractions all the time if it's worth it to their team. I mean, guys like Antonio Brown come to mind. He managed to still keep going and going. So it just didn't manage. Now, him falling as far as he did to the fifth, whatever, I think the Browns in themselves probably thought they were not going to get Sanders. But by the time things were coming
Well,
along the
no, they
pike,
drafted Gilbert.
right, but what I'm saying is by the time the fifth round comes along and Shador Sanders is still available, they're probably like, you know what, at this point, we should probably get him at this
Yeah.
point. Um, so all that having been said, you know, I I don't know. For somebody who's been handed everything, if he really wants to make moves and he really wants to prove it, he's going to have a chance to. He's on a team in which they absolutely need a quarterback and they need good quarterback play, and he's got an opportunity to do it. So I don't know. I know that you were aggravated about other things watching that happen. What are your thoughts on this?
Well, I think what's going to happen with this roster at the quarterback room, they have five quarterbacks.
Right.
Um, and the way that the system is right now, they drafted Shador Sanders and Dylan Gilbert to basically be a potential starting quarterback for their roster moving forward for years to come. Um, I think the other people that are there, Kenny Pickett trade, I think he's a wash. I think obviously Deshaun Watson is gone. They just got to figure out what they're going to do with him. And Joe Flacco, unfortunately, I do believe that at least two or three of these players are gonna, and not including the rookies, are not going to be on this roster when the season starts. And if there's somebody that I believe that is going to be on this roster as the season starts, it's probably I will lean towards Flacco. Um, and they might put Deshaun Watson on the physically unable to perform list or something like that, so he's just not on the list or on the.
I'm not even counting Deshaun Watson in this. I really am not.
Yeah, I mean, but Kenny Pickett, unfortunately, I think he's just going to find his way somewhere else. Maybe he makes his way back to Pittsburgh. Um, you know, clears waivers, goes to Pittsburgh.
Maybe.
Um, and it's just it's round two with Kenny Pickett in Pittsburgh if Aaron Rodgers doesn't show up week one. But I think again, like I said, I would hope if the Cleveland Browns are smart, which it's been difficult to see what Cleveland Browns team is showing up each year. But if the Cleveland Browns are smart, they will start with Joe Flacco and they will kind of give the lean to the person that is just the standout and that can command the rock, can command the offense and that can move the ball and can potentially win games for them. I mean, their defense is strong.
Sure.
So, and their defense is always very fantasy relevant as well too. So, personally, I believe, there has to be three quarterbacks on that roster because of how they drafted. And unfortunately, I think they're going to have to, I mean, they're going to go with Shador Sanders. as a starter. And unfortunately,
Disagree.
I
Disagree.
I just think it's going to happen because it's I
They
don't
didn't
know
bring
where
in.
else it goes.
They didn't bring Joe Flacco in. Uh, like I don't know. I was hearing some rumors that he might be done now. If Joe Flacco's on that roster, he is the starting quarterback week
That's what I
one.
said, though. That's what I said. But I think through the
By the end of
season,
the year, who
I think with
takes
the season they're going to give the nod to one of those guys. And unfortunately, there's a talent in Dylan Gilbert where I just think that
Dylan
they're going
Gabriel?
Gabriel, they're going to pass on him. And that's unfortunate because I think he has a great talent. Watching him at Oregon, they were really well. They did really well past a number of years when he was at the helm. And Shador Sanders has always been just the play from behind. I'm just going to gun it. I'm going to throw 700 balls for the year, and it just I have a Heisman wide receiver. I don't know. I think this is unfortunately we don't want this to be daddy ball, but this is daddy ball. And Cleveland goes in, they buy into the hype at sometimes. So I just think that this is going to be the year that they continue to do that. And
I don't know. I don't know. I think not at where he was drafted. I mean, we just made the point that Shadur Sanders, I mean, nobody bought into the hype because they're NFL teams who are trying to win, who are trying to make their rosters better. And they saw
uh,
him as not worth it, despite the gigantic hype train that happened around it. They saw through all that smoke. And Cleveland's no different. But by the time the
no.
fifth round comes along on a quarterback needy team, um, I agree with you. I will. I'm not take. One of these guys is going to be the starting quarterback by the end of the year,
Yeah.
Dylan Gabriel or Shador. But I mean, you were saying things like maybe one of them will get traded or something. It's really a mess. I mean, it's great for the media. They get to look at this
They
circus
get some
of a
media.
situation. Yeah. Let's make a mention of their other picks in relation to this. So first round they went the big D lineman out of Michigan, Mason Graham, great player. Second round linebacker. So Cleveland's going to have another amazing defense. It's going to be these AFC North matches between the Pittsburgh Steelers and the and the Cleveland Browns going to be like 9-9.
Yeah.
Um, but their other second round pick, I just want to mention this here. So Quinshawn Judkins, great running back out of Ohio State.
Yeah, no
Um,
Nick Chubb. They didn't re-sign Nick Chubb as of yet. I don't know if they should re-sign Nick
th-
Chubb.
he's not coming back. So you're basically left with Jerome Ford, who's the tried and true volume solid guy, and this superstar electric running back Quinshawn Judkins. I think Judkins takes over this thing towards the end of the year. I do think Jerome Ford plays a massive role to first couple of games, but I see a lot of upside here with Quinshawn Judkins towards the end. We know what we say about rookie running backs, and the only negative thing I see about this, other than the fact it's going to take him time to take over, is like, Cleveland, are they going to score enough points? Are they going to be able to stay on the field enough to make it worth it? You know,
I don't know. I mean, I think their defense is going to keep them in the game, but the same thing with your offense being on the field as much. Your defense can't be on the field as much because it's going to relate to injuries. It's going to relate to, obviously, wearing out the defense and just, you're now you're just playing from behind. And I mean, maybe that's where Shador Sanders comes in play. He's like, all right, well, throw the guy in that played behind with no defense at Colorado. Just keep throwing that ball. Cedric Tillman and Jerry Jeudy are receiving for 1,500 yards both.
right.
And
I mean,
the rejuvenation of Deontay Johnson.
but again, my question to you is like, forget what should happen or the future and anything. And you already know the answer to this. Which quarterback on that roster gives the pass catchers the best chance to succeed? You could say it. Oh my God. Say Joe Flacco, because that's the answer. It's the truth.
Okay.
Yeah, it's the truth.
Okay.
It's not. Yeah, give me the give me the side eye. It is what it is. I mean, this will be by far this will be the most interesting quarterback situation to work itself out. And it's one of the only situations I could think of where, hey, we're not really sure what's going on at quarterback, but how we think about kind of the overall potency of the offense, is not changing too much. Although, like we just said, Joe Flacco is going to be a boon for all of the receivers. David Njoku is going to be the number one target.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, depending on who's their quarterback.
Yeah, depending on if it's Joe Flacco.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. All right. So that's the Cleveland Browns, and that's the AFC North. I mean, I just wanted to add a little note. We could probably talk forever about the Shador Sanders thing. I have other opinions about where the media failed, and basically like how it just social media whips up people into hating each other over things that are irrelevant. The point is, the point is, he's a kid. He's going to have an opportunity to do his best. And honestly, if you're a fan of Shador Sanders, he got put into a scenario in which he could compete the fastest. So in the end, he's in a way that he could compete. No
He's in
matter,
a great he's in a great scenario for himself. I mean, but I will say this: if he held himself like his brother who was undrafted to Tampa Bay, I think things will be a little bit different.
you're right. You're right. It does not help when you
You hold
really
yourself like an adult and a professional,
right.
you go far
It
in life.
it doesn't help when you come across as all about yourself. Now
See
we
this
don't.
gold chain? See this gold chain right here?
Right. You know, the caricatures of that stuff. It reminded me of the guy from Step Brothers, his brother, the guy who ran the thing. Is
Yeah.
just like, hey, let me tell you something. I made this much in last quarter. Anyway, so that's the AFC North. So as always, we're gonna get a little mock draft action for everybody, and
Yeah,
so this
yeah,
particular go around, we're going PPR with single flex, and yeah, Tommy, if you wanna, I'll set this up for everybody if you
yeah.
wanna.
PPR single flex, 10 rounds. We will explain our picks. The picks are going to be obviously a little bit different than we were from a half point PPR strategy wise. We do need to fill the roster, and no defense piece selected in this. In this 10 round, there's no reason to pick a defense before the 10th round at all. Guys, never do that. Never do that. Never pick the Jets defense back when they were really, really good in the second round. We've had that case before with somebody in a league, and it was very funny. It went Aaron Rodgers first round, and then the Jets in the second round.
Right. If they
But
could have
we'll save
drafted
that story for we'll save that story for another day.
if they could have drafted Woody Johnson in the third round, it would have
Yep,
happened.
yep, they could have.
Um, so are you able to see? Are you able to see the screen on your end?
Yeah, I can see everything.
You're able to see the screen. All right,
Yep, I'm
cool.
drafting at 8. Billy's drafting at 10, so it's going to be a little bit of we might pick some players that we're both looking for and whatnot. So we'll see what happens. Oh, and CeeDee Lamb goes number one. That's not going to happen in real leagues.
Well, who knows? People
Yeah,
have their
that's
own
true.
opinions.
And
So,
again, this is full point PPR. So the first three picks were wide receivers, and then
but
after that,
it's
Bijan
but it's
Barkley
single
goes.
flex. It's important to remember single
Yep.
flex though.
Single
Like it's
flex. Bijan goes number 4. Barkley goes number 5. Puka goes number 6, and St. Brown goes number 7. So I'm on the clock at number 8, and I got a couple options right here. Kind of in the same scenario I was last week with potentially taking Gibbs. He is obviously a reception running back as well too. Um, I don't know if I really can pass on Gibbs at this position right here, at this eight right here, unless I wanted to reach a little bit and go for a Malik Neighbors or um, a potential Nico Collins. But I just right now value Jahmyr Gibbs at this position, and I really just can't pass on him, so I'm gonna draft Gibbs.
I think it's just automatic there. And I think that actually, I think some of the positions, I think we picked really good spots to be able to explain to people. So now I'm in a position where, by the way, Nico Collins went just after Gibbs. But if I had been Team Nine and the same thing now, I feel like there's a major drop off, or at least it's more difficult to wade through who you're going to pick at this point because basically the top five wide receivers and the top three running backs are in. like those are tiers, and now we're beginning new tiers of stuff at this point. So, and now there's a bit more, it's not as consensus as to how good players are. For example, on the running back end, I know Tommy here at this point thinks Derrick Henry is going to end up as a top five. I don't necessarily believe that. I have yet to form my full tiers, but I'm a bit more cautious than that.
And you don't
Uh,
have to draft him.
and I don't have to. I know he gets mad every time. It's not. You don't. He doesn't like it being disagreed with. On the wide receiver end, you know, we Malik Neighbors, who I'm all for. He's going to be a target monster. Regardless if it's Russ, I would prefer if it was Jameis. But regardless if it's Russ or Jameis, or the best quarterback in the whole wide world, Jackson Dart. Drake London's here, Brian Thomas is here. I mean, there's really a plethora of amazing wide receivers right around this point. So I'm gonna have to grab a running back because they're definitely gonna go faster. I could grab a wide receiver on the way back. If I'm gonna, I don't like, I'm not a fan of Devon Achane here. I'm worried about what the Dolphins are going to be doing. Bucky Irving, we're lower than consensus on. It's difficult at this point. At this point, I'll play a little ADP game because I think in our next tier of backs, we're probably going to have Ashton Junty, but I could probably get him later at this point. So I'm going to surprise everybody this early. I'm going to take Christian McCaffrey at this point.
Ooh, based on your conversation and your articulation, I knew that's where you're going.
I'm going to take Christian McCaffrey. And
Hmm,
again, like we say all
interesting.
the time, if you're grabbing McCaffrey, you make sure you leave with Garendo. So I'll take McCaffrey. Following my pick, wow. I could have gotten other running backs, I guess. So Brian Thomas, Malik Neighbors, Brock Bowers, first tight end off the board, and then AJ Brown.
Yep.
And at this point, uh, like we said, I probably could go. I think Jonty is in that next tier. Josh Jacobs is available, who I'm also very high on. But there's some ADP there. I'm gonna go Derrick Henry at this point now, as I do have McCaffrey higher, but I'll go Derrick Henry at this point, and I'll start with two running backs. Following Derrick Henry is JSN, who Tommy's happy to hear that because we're lower on consensus, and now Mr. Lang is on the board.
All right, so here it's kind of put me in this position right here where I may be adapting a different strategy this draft. And my reasoning is because I'm not a fan of Drake London. I'm not really a fan of Devon Achane. I'm not really a fan of Tyreek Hill as much as I want to take him here, and he's the most kind of pop out player when it comes down to a wide receiver right now. I do obviously think that he's going to have a tremendous value, but I just don't know if I can spend the draft capital at this point in time right now. At this back end of the draft, this early, or early in the second round on him right now. If I was later, like, team two and at 211, I'd feel a little bit more confident in putting him on my roster and package him with obviously Jamar Chase. But right now, I think based on what I got, I am going to change my strategy, and I am never a quarterback drafting person
This
this
is
early, and I am going to go and draft Josh Allen. He is the
oh,
best value, I think, that I will not be able to get a quarterback like him in this draft later or in the next round. I'm going to draft Josh Allen.
this is off brand for us. Why don't you
Yeah,
announce
this is off
the
brand for me. So after me goes Devon Achane, then Tyreek Hill goes Trey McBride, London, McConkey, um, Bucky Irving. Then the second quarterback goes off the board in Lamar Jackson. Jonathan Taylor, Higgins goes to team two. Garrett Wilson, Terry McLaurin, Evans, Jacobs, and then Mr. Brown goes, and I am back
Chase
on the
Brown?
clock. So that being said, I need to, kind of really work the running back and wide receiver element. And at this point, when I draft Josh Allen there, I cannot mess around with tight ends until later in the draft. I really have to just fill a roster. Um, and right now, I'm going to continue to go with my running back based on the valued plays that I have here.
Yeah, take it.
And
I know where you're going. Take it.
Yep.
Yeah.
And this is somebody that Billy was talking about earlier. He obviously has two running backs right now, so I don't think that he's leaning to this at this point in time anymore. I do believe that he's going for a wide receiver at this point. And again, you're not playing to steal player, you're not playing a draft to steal players from people. It
As
just is
fun
what
as
it
that could
is.
be.
Yeah, but I'm going to go with young talent. I'm going to go
Yep.
with Ashton Genty as my second running back off the board in a full point PPR setting. Gibbs and also Genty, I think they're both going to be reliable catchers, and I think it's going to be a good opportunity to start my draft that way. So then after
Yeah.
me goes Jaden Daniels, and Billy's on the clock.
Yeah, that was a good pick by him, and we probably see Johnsy in the next tier of backs after the top three. But right now, ADP is basically having Johnsy in the third, maybe very, very, very low second, which
Mhm.
is of serious value at the moment. So Tommy got him at a steal there. Good for him. I will not be going. Any onesie position here. Jaden Daniels went right after Tommy picked, so the top three quarterbacks were off the board. I wouldn't have gone there anyway. The top two tight ends are off the board. So I'm going to be going wide receiver because I have two running backs. The top available wide receivers in ADP are Devontae Adams, who we don't. I'm lower than on consensus. Marvin Harrison, who it's do you believe they're going to make improvements or not? That's the question. DJ Moore, who I believe is going to
Have you
be,
seen Marvin Harrison basically talking to the
I
media?
know, Meredith Street here. He looks
Huge.
great. He
He's
looks
looking jacked.
looking jacked. Later on though in
Calvin
the
Johnson-esque.
later on though in the ADP, we do have somebody I do believe in Cortland Sutton, but I think I'll be able to get him on the way back. So it for me, it's either Marvin Harrison or DJ Moore. Uh, it's who do I believe is making a bigger step up? I'll go with Marvin Harrison just for narrative street, and we'll see what happens after that. Oh, and Sutton went. All right, that's fine. So I picked Harrison, Devonta Adams
Well, you can
went,
get both guys.
Brees Hall, Cortland Sutton went, Kyron Williams, who I think is a gigantic value here. Yeah, so I'm going to be grabbing DJ Moore. Just out of curiosity, I'm just going to check around on the running backs here. Some guys who have some good value at this point. I still think Alvin Kamara in the fourth is unbelievable value. But I'm going to go with DJ Moore. I'm going to go DJ Moore here. So I said I would, so we're going to go that. So keep my team balanced. And
So,
Hawkinson went after me.
yeah,
Tommy's on the clock.
Hawkinson goes, and now I'm on the clock. And based on the how my draft is looking right now, taking Josh Allen, obviously in that early in the draft, it really just kills the vibe of your wide receiver room if you go running back twice. So the issue now I have is I really have to lean towards that wide receiver position to really just have at least as many options as possible to try to hit, a home run at least with one or two of them that ends up as a wide receiver one at the end of the year. Um, Based on the strategy that I'm in right now, I obviously, I'm making my bed, so I'm going to sleep in it, and I'm going to have to work with what I got here. So I got, I'm not even going to look at the running backs because there's some great value plays there. I guess I can just still sit with the running back, but then I'm really just digging myself even further. Um, I'll look how flexes look. The problem is we don't perceive Zay Flowers as a wide receiver one. I just again I don't even personally see him as a wide receiver two, especially with the amount of talent that's on that roster and just how they throw the ball. So, yes, numbers say different at times, but I just don't see the consistency ratio that he normally will have. Chris Olave, he doesn't have a quarterback, so how can I really put him as my wide receiver one? And feel
DK
confident.
Metcalf, he doesn't have a quarterback.
Um, Rashid Rice, he is obviously coming off that injury, but also he has the suspension. So do I take a risk there? I don't know. Obviously DK Metcalf is the highest volume opportunity guy, being the only one on his roster right now. Outside of that, I really think that I can sit and wait shortly a little bit on more wide receivers that can really just, I could go five wide receivers back to back to back to back. Um, but
This is a
yeah,
hard pick. You've
I
explained it
know
way
this
more
is
than
this
you
is
usually
this is
do.
so
So it's,
difficult. This is so difficult. You know what? I'm gonna go with consistency. Um, and I'm just gonna, um, I'm, I'm gonna. Uh, I'm sorry, everybody. This is really hard. This is really hard right now.
well, while you think real quick, I just wanted to say some of the guys that you mentioned, Rashee Rice is basically off my board at this point because
Yeah.
of A, the suspension, and B, who knows what's going to be after the injury. I'm not taking the shot ever on Olave until they declare what they're doing at quarterback and let me be quiet while you explain this, guys.
Yep. I don't need you to explain it anymore. I went Chris Godwin. I went
He's
against.
very high on
Yeah,
him.
I know. I
Yes.
went against the ADP. I just felt like, obviously him coming back off, getting paid, coming back off, it's going to be a really nice opportunity for him to, really exceed in his role. Um, Now, is it a comfortable pick at wide receiver? I believe, based on what I think that's going to happen, I think it's a great opportunity. I couldn't have waited till the next round to grab him. So,
I
yeah.
do think I got to tell you. So, if you remember, we've been talking a lot about Godwin this offseason, and I
Yep.
think a lot of the same thing you do, but I'm not as bullish because I do think the first part of the year is not going to be so good for him as he reacclimates himself back in. And if you remember, your logic this whole offseason about is Chris Godwin is if you do take the plunge on Godwin, who's going to be a value, you have to pair him with somebody who can, you know what I mean, weather that storm with you for the first thing. And he's essentially your wide receiver one at this point. So
Yep.
you're gonna have to patch some holes there. So follow while you think
Bueno.
about your next pick. After Godwin goes, Rice, Flowers, Kamara's off the board now. Hurts, Chuba Hubbard, James Cook, Kenneth Walker, Chris Olave's off the board now. Jalen Waddle, Mixon, Metcalf, Devontae Smith, Joe Burrow. So the top five quarterbacks are now off the board. George Pickens, and now Tommy's back on the clock to try to piece together his team now.
Yeah, I'm not really liking the positional with some of the wide receivers at this point in time right now. There are some players that I can really just say, all right, I'm a little bit more confident in this, but do I want to pair them with another team player that's on that roster right now? Like I'm looking at Jamison Williams with pairing with obviously a Gibbs, and is there a value with that? Yeah, I do believe that's what I'm leaning to right now. Do I go Brandon Ayuk and I have two injured 2025, 2024, 2025 wide receivers as my wide receiver one, wide receiver two? I don't know if I can feel comfortable starting that way. So I think right now I'm going to take Jameson Williams. Obviously, I can't think about the
Nice.
pairing of the Detroit Lions. It's a great opportunity. There's nothing changing that offensive role. I think that he is going to find more volume this year, and I think it's a great pick for me to, really bolster that roster that I have.
It is a good pick. Jameson Williams is a good pick on his own, especially where he's going. Following Jameson Williams, Tyron Tracy. Now you know me. This is the fifth round. If George Kittle makes it to the fifth, it's automatic for me. I have him as the third ranked tight end. ADP wise, he's not going there. If this remains until the end of the season, I'm going to be taking George Kittle in the fifth all day long. To me, it's easy. I'm taking George Kittle. Not to mention the fact that there's some wide receivers that I'm looking to play the game with on the way back, and there's a few of them. So let's get my George Kittle. So after Kittle's off the board, Jordan Addison, James Conner, Baker Mayfield, David Montgomery, and now I'm back on the board. And the wide receivers that I was looking at are back, and I am extremely bullish on Xavier Worthy. I am going to, after I have two other wide receivers, I could afford to take a shot on a very boom busty kind of shot. I'm taking Xavier Worthy here.
Okay. Take Xavier
Mario
Worthy.
Hampton going to team nine in between me. Tommy's back on the board.
Yeah, so I got my two wide receivers, I got my two running backs, I got my Josh Allen. So, now I'm at number six. I'm picking at my sixth spot right here. Obviously, I should lean to wide receiver, but I want to look at value, what I have here. From last week's conversation, I was a very big firm believer on Aaron Jones coming back, and then also my boy Khalil Shakir is sitting there as well too. as a consistent wide receiver for me, but then also that'd be a nice pairing for Josh Allen. Um, Value wise, do I take? I mean, there are some decent wide receivers and running backs still to be drafted later on if needed, and also there's a tight end that I have been feeling, even though we've seen his Harry back this week. We,
Ugh.
you know. Anyway, I'm gonna draft Khalil Shakir and continue my trend with my wide receivers. I think that's a nice fair pack right there. And if I was to just say this is my starting lineup right now with two wide receivers, two running backs, and Khalil Shakir as my flex, I think it's a nice start for myself. Um, then after Khalil Shakir goes, Laporta goes, Pacheco goes, Mahomes goes, Harris, Judy, Pollard, and Jones to finish off the second round, the sixth round. Then Jalen Warren goes. Then you got Brandon Ayuk, Jared Goff, Oduze, Myers, Brian Robinson, who I thought that was going to fall a little bit further, but he didn't. But so that's what happens in drafts. And then Brock Purdy goes. And 7, 8, I'm up. And I have some options to discuss here. So with this pick here, do need to bolster a little bit more running back position now that I have a little bit more stability at wide receiver. Um, I'm going to be getting a tremendous amount of points from my quarterback play, so I'm not really too worried about scoring single digits in on my fantasy roster this year. Um, there is the theory of taking Travis Kelce with this seventh pick, but I'm just not 100% sold on that as of right now. I do think that I need to work with my running back situation, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to lean more towards running back because of the fact that there are some valued plays here. I think that DeAndre Swift is a great pick at this position right here because he technically also still is the number one running back on that roster. But there's also a valued play with Travis Etienne. Um, Having coming off of that injury, I think it's a brand new year, brand new system. Trevor Lawrence is coming off that injury. Now he has Travis Hunter on the outside. I think it only opens up more for Travis Etienne and that running game. So I'm going to lean and take Travis Etienne here with my seventh pick.
Following Travis Etienne, Debo Samuel left, and for me, this is going to be pretty easy pick here. So, um, I'll pick Swift. I'll just say it real quick. So the rest of the running backs after him are really now we're not getting into starting running back zone. And say what you will about Swift and whether he's good or whether he's bad, he is the starting running back on what is likely to be a pretty good offense. Um, and he's good in space, and you know, it's as again at this point in the draft, if you're trying to get a running back, like all starting running backs at some point are going to be drafted slash are never going to be on waiver wire, so that's perfectly fine. I was hoping to maybe think about Kyler on the way back. Kyler did go after that. Ramondre Stevenson went, Calvin Ridley, and then Jonnu Smith, and so at this point. I could go wide receiver again. There's some decent options, but I know that there's some options there. So back to quarterback. I'm usually going for Bo Nix in around the eighth round, maybe ninth round. I think I'll go Bo Nix here. It looks like quarterbacks are going a little earlier. I'm going to go Bo Nix here. Very happy with that. Yep, we'll leave it like that.
And
And
after
Michael
Bo
Pittman goes
Nix,
after them.
Michael Pittman goes, and I'm back on the clock. Um, So, there, like we were discussing in the past couple of weeks, there are some wide receivers that ADP wise, I think that they're too low right now. I think in a value perspective, Cooper Kupp being going in the eighth round is tremendous. Um, Jaden Reed, say what you want with him. Having that value there, I think it could be a nice, little, he'd be my wide receiver four. But I do believe Cooper Kupp is going to a team that's going to need him a little bit more as a wide receiver one than Jaden Reed has thinks he's a wide receiver one because he's not. Um, so I'm going to go with this pick here. not what I was just talking about at all. Um, with this pick here, I'm actually going to go with Travis Kelce. I do need to fit that tight end role, and I think that Travis Kelce, at the value of where he is, with that Harry back, I might change my team name to Harry Backs if he scores multiple touchdowns this year.
Oh my God.
After Travis Kelce, then Jaden Reed goes, Mark Andrews goes, Spears goes, Evan Ingram, Cooper Kupp, my darling goes, um, Herbert goes, Downs goes Downs, Njoku, Javante, our favorite running back, goes in the ninth round. You forgot about him, saying that he's not a starting running back. Stephon
It's
Diggs,
iffy.
Love, Rico Dowdle, the fifth running back on that roster goes in the ninth round. Kincaid and then McMillian goes, and then I'm on the clock for my second to last pick.
I just want to say something. I think in every single mock draft we've done, you've grabbed Kelsey, who is basically your least favorite NFL player. So
Yes,
I just want that on record that you've
it is
drafted
on record
Kelsey
that
in
he
every
is my
single
least.
time.
He is my least NFL favorite player ever. But if he is retiring next year, he's going on a revenge tour with his best friend Patrick Mahomes.
Okay.
Um, So at this position here, I'm still obviously going to be going my route of running back or wide receiver. I have wide receivers, I have three running backs, so I believe that I do need to fill that role when it comes down to whether I just bolster my wide receivers or I just do one on one. Um, Right now, there is a wide receiver that I'm obviously super high on this year, and his name is Mr. Ricky Pearsall. I may be able to wait till the next round, but I know that Billy may decide to steal him from me, so I'm going to take Mr. Ricky Pearsall.
Yeah, there was no chance I was taking that. So Caleb Williams is going after Pearsall. I will be going on wide receiver here. And then on my way back, like we said, we're only doing 10 rounds for you guys. On my way back, I'll grab Garendo. So wide receiver here to help bolster my team. Some good options. Darnell Mooney's the top on the board, who's basically I'm leaning to at this point. Um, lots of upside because we don't really know what we're going to get out of Penix. From a upside perspective, he was pretty solid. Wasn't amazing, but he see a lot of promise there. Keenan Allen doesn't have a team. Christian Kirk is, at this point the second wide receiver in Houston, right? That's not overstating at this point to say. Amari Cooper, who doesn't have a team. Keon Coleman might contribute in Buffalo. I bet you could say that about any wide receiver. He might contribute. Holly Brown, Ted McMillan. Yeah, I'm going to be leaning towards Darnell Mooney here. He had a great performance last year, a great bunch of performances last year. We'll see what happens. And then Jake Ferguson went, Rashad White, Tucker Kraft, Tua, and of course, I'll just grab Garendo here if I could find him. So while I look for Garendo, why don't you think about who you're gonna draft here?
I already know who I'm drafting if he's still there.
Okay, so here we go. Oh, good luck if I could spell Garendo and Isaac Garendo. There we go.
All right. And my guy that I was gonna go wasn't gonna be taken. So J.K.
J.K.
Dobbins
Dobbins.
goes. J.K. Dobbins is gonna find his way in a roster. He did so well last year. I mean, I just don't see how somebody just doesn't snag him up and, plug him in. Whether it's even a 50-50 split or something like that. I mean, the guy is just so talented. He's been bolstered with injuries. But it is what it is. So I haven't, obviously Trevion Henderson, I've been talking really big game on him. But I do think that based on my draft pick of Travis Etienne, I should as well, take a Bigsby here as well too, just to have that backup, that role right there. So I think if you're going to take the risk on Travis Etienne because of the injury that happened last year, and Tank Bigsby's role has been growing as the season's gone on, and he's been getting more goal line touches. I think that he's somebody that you should really throw on your roster. Obviously, Jerome Ford is a great talent as well too. That's sitting there. Blake Corum was drafted for a reason. I think that they're going to utilize him a little bit more this year, but I think based on how my roster is, kind of going together. Obviously, Austin Eckler is there as well too, and he has some tremendous opportunities, and he was a great plug and play when, for bye weeks when he was healthy. Um, I think I'm just going to draft my Tank Bigsby with my 10th overall pick just as a backup to my Travis Etienne.
Okay. I did want to ask you now that we're kind of finishing up the draft here from a strategic standpoint. So for everybody to listen, I mean, you did go quarterback in the second round,
Yep.
and guys like Dak Prescott went in the 10th round.
Yep.
Uh, Knowing what you know, and generally, I got it. You're trying something a little bit different for the sake of, giving a little bit of a different feel. But knowing that, is it even a question for you? You'd rather have Dak in the 10th than Josh Allen in the second?
Yeah, it just depends on what's there, right? So like if for some reason like if Derrick Henry fell to that position right there at 2.5, I'm taking Derrick Henry over Josh Allen all day. Um, the other, perspective is basically, do I reach on running back? Do I take, a Jonathan Taylor or a Josh Jacobs and just, plug them in there and then, and then pass on Genty and then basically take the Marvin Harrison and get my Chris Godwin. Like, do I work like
Sure.
that? Yeah, I mean, hindsight is 2020. I think I'm more, I'm better, I'm more comfortable on how the draft went as I went on, and because you have to, if you're gonna take that risk early on, you're gonna really pass on that 2.5 position and really focus on grabbing that quarterback. You really need to like bolster the roster of running backs and wide receivers for the rest of the draft, and you really can't screw up. If you screw up, your season's over.
Right.
I mean, you can really destroy your season just by your draft. Yes, um, waiver wires are great, but you can't really build a roster on waivers.
No, but you could support your team from
Correct.
waivers.
So you
They
need
will.
you need some sort of balance to start the season to actually win your league.
Well, if nothing else, I mean, like we keep saying, Josh Allen's the model of consistency. He's been the number one or number two quarterback every single year since 2018 or since 2019. So you can't go wrong with that. I do think it's a bit rich for me there. Um, but there we go. So that's our mock draft. People could judge who they think did well, who they think did bad, which one of the CPU teams beat us. They could let us know. So closing thoughts, sir.
Yeah. Again, we really appreciate everybody that takes the time to watch our videos. If you could share, subscribe, and interact with us. As the season gets closer, we're gonna be really asking for some, questions. Anybody that wants us to discuss any type of positions when it comes down to like players, where they're going to be, how they're going to do, we'll articulate that stuff, and we could really just bring up some content to what your liking is as well too. So, again, we appreciate everybody that tunes in. But if you could share, subscribe, and yeah, thanks everybody.
Cool. Thank you, everybody.